Fiscal year 13 budget discussion, cigarette tax. Roller.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and City Council, I do appreciate Lance coming here on short notice tonight and giving us an overview of the jail situation. As we've discussed at your council retreat and over the past year, I've discussed this individually with each council member over the last week and also in several group settings. We've got some serious issues here in FY13, the jail issue being the most serious issue going forward. We also still have the school funding situation in front of us that's yet to be resolved. Retirement costs, personnel costs, and other project costs that we'll have to pay for in FY13. If you add all the items up, I've given you on your major FY13 budget issue sheets in your package and discussed at the retreat. Just a rough figure that we've come up with is a $487,500 addition to the FY14 budget. This is equivalent to an increase of 14 cents in the real property tax rate. Options for addressing the budget situation include raising the property tax rate, as I stated previously, levying a cigarette tax, cutting or eliminating funding to civic organizations, and or cutting or reducing city services. And again, I've discussed these issues with each of you, and it appears the overwhelming majority of council is in favor of levying a cigarette tax to soften the impact to next year's budget. We can go through the budget issues on the next sheet one by one. I encourage further discussion. But at the end of this item, I am asking and recommending you direct me to prepare an ordinance allowing the city of Fort to levy a cigarette tax equivalent to 50 cents per pack effective July 1st, 2012, and to advertise for a public hearing to be held on the matter at your April 17th, 2012 meeting.
Is there a motion with regard to the recommendation of the manager?
I make a motion that we do the 50 cent per pack cigarette tax.
And go for the advertisement of public hearing. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Have a second, third. All right, discussion, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I could save my long speech, I guess, for the public hearing, but I got them, I'll smoke them. What the heck. I realize in modern day America, the expectation is that one has to be politically correct, accept everything and everyone, and never criticize anything, except for fat people, Christians, and smokers. On those three areas, pretty much anything goes. I won't even waste time suggesting that singling out one group of citizens for extra taxation is grossly unfair, and that you should all be ashamed of your acceptance and willingness to do that, because we've had that discussion before at the retreat, as enjoyable as it was. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, more than half of all smokers are low-income people. So this is a regressive tax that low-income citizens will be impacted the most severely with. From a bigger picture perspective, I'd like to point out the negative impact on grocery stores, convenience stores, and drugstores in the city that sell cigarettes. An Americans for Prosperity economic study estimated that a 50 cent per pack cigarette tax hike would decrease sales volume by 18% if other sales outlets existed nearby. So figure that into your budget for building the amount that you think you're going to realize off of this. In Emporia, it's rarely more than a mile to a store outside the city limits that'll sell cigarettes for $5 a carton less than the proposed tax. And I think 50 cents a pack is a bit steep. The entire state rate is only 30 cents a pack. I think we may as well name this proposal the Greensville County Revenue Enhancement Act, and I'm sure Dave Whittington and the supervisors will be most appreciative of council's generosity. But we're going to lose more than just cigarette sales tax. We're going to lose the sales tax on items bought in the store when people go in to buy milk or gas or candy bar or soft drink or whatever while they're in going to a store outside the city to buy cigarettes. We're going to lose the revenue from gasoline sales and the tax generated by it. That same study estimated the loss in gross profits for convenience stores at $11,000 per store per year. Gross profits, not sales, gross profits, $11,000 per store per year at the cigarette tax level that is proposed for the city. Now, this isn't a constant source of revenue. Smokers my age are not being replaced when we die off, younger than others, by younger smokers, so revenues from this source will decline over time. Additionally, amounts budgeted have rarely been met by any locality that has enacted this tax, and I think part of that is the calculation of how it's done and the need to take off some reduction from the loss in sales more so than happens. And lastly, let me point out that while there's no tax that's a good tax, some are necessary evils, this is one of the really insidious ones in that smokers will now be paying sales tax on the city's excise tax on cigarettes, as well as the state and federal tax on cigarettes. So you go buy a carton, you pay sales tax, but the other taxes are already grouped into the purchase price of the cigarettes. So paying a tax on a tax is really a nasty thing. We've got better alternatives, smarter approaches, and fairer and more efficient ways to balance the city budget than this, and I look forward to voting against it and all of the rest of y'all every step along the way. Thank you for allowing me to say my piece.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Anyone else?
When you do it, if it's done, how's it kept up with? Is it taxed when it comes in the store, out the store? What's all that kind of stuff?
Basically, we've looked at other localities' ordinances and actually talked briefly with Commissioner of Revenue and Treasurer yesterday about some of this. What we would do is basically, in effect, copy with some few changes, Franklin or Benton's or another localities. They basically read the same. There are two options. The retailer can come in and buy actual stamps from the treasurer's office to affix to the packs of cigarettes, or more likely a wholesaler has a metering machine that they would put the stamps on beforehand themselves, submit the required paperwork to the commissioner's office. Most localities, Franklin gives an 8% discount for metering ahead of time, and submit the proper paperwork to the commissioner's office and treasurer's office to provide the payment in that form. We'll have to flush out some of these details of how this will be administered, and this will primarily fall on Joyce's and Billy's office, but the basic mechanics are there, how this would work.
Did the legislation changing that pass? Have you looked at it recently?
I'm not aware of any.
I know there were two bills that I had sent you that changed what localities were able to do in regard to that, but I don't know if they were adopted or not.
Any other questions? All in favor, say.
I would just like to make a comment. Mr. Harris, you're exactly right. But I don't know how many of you have seen the commercials lately on cigarette smoking from a health standpoint. If you could stop the young people from smoking, maybe not. I'm a non-smoker, but I've seen the results of what smoking can do personally in my family just about 7 months ago. She had throat cancer and then led to brain cancer. But those two, I don't know how long they've been on TV, but I've seen them recently. One with the lady with the bald head. She put on a wig, put her trach in. Then there's another one, young guy, young man, amputated fingers, and both legs due to cigarettes. So from that standpoint, I waited this long and hard. And, I have seen cigarette smokers, and I do sympathize, because I think it's a hard habit to break. I've seen people go into the store buying 2 cigarettes So that means they're really hooked to cigarettes, and that hurt. You know, to know that we are putting a tax on it, but maybe somewhere along the line, down the years from now, it will help somebody. Young.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Can I make one more comment? And I appreciate what you've said, and I don't necessarily agree with that. The only question I would ask is, it's pretty stupid of me to sit at home and eat a whole pizza by myself at supper some nights. It's pretty stupid for other people to go into bars if they don't have the money to buy a whole bottle of whatever they're drinking at the ABC store. How far as a society are we prepared to go in regulating people's individual and personal behavior? Illegal drugs that are already illegal. You know, I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but we've already lost the war on drugs, just like we've lost the war on poverty. Whatever we're doing ain't working. There are any number of things that are bad personal behavior, but it is incumbent on each of us to live our lives and be responsible for the choices that we make and the things that happen. And I don't know that as right as you are and as sad as those circumstances are, this is certainly not something that City Council can fix, because government's far bigger and more powerful and better funded than us have tried and been unsuccessful in that. And we're not stupid, we're just addicted. People who smoke, but you're exactly right. Thanks.
All right, anything else? All in favor say aye. All opposed?
No,
How did I know that?
you know me well.